The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated between two bright stars. It was the size of a small moon, with countless docking bays and meeting halls. Ships from across the galaxy came here for the most important meeting of the year. The Galactic Assembly was about to decide humanity's fate. Ambassador Li Jiwan adjusted her formal uniform as she walked through the gleaming corridors. Behind her came Captain Park Minho, his hand resting on his weapon, and Dr. Kim Yuna, carrying a datapad filled with humanity's achievements. They had traveled for months to reach this moment. "Remember," Li Jiwan said quietly, "we've waited 3 years for this. Today, Earth becomes a full member of the galactic community." The main assembly hall was enormous. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform. Strange beings filled every space. Some looked like walking crystals that rang like bells when they moved. Others were clouds of gas held together by energy fields. Giant insects with too many eyes clicked and buzzed. Fish-like creatures swam through tanks of water that somehow stayed in shape without walls. At the center sat the Council of Five. These were the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. They had ruled space for thousands of years. Their word was law. Li Jiwan felt nervous but tried not to show it. Humans were young compared to these ancient races. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. But in that short time, humans had built colonies on 12 worlds and helped dozens of other species with trade and technology. "The case of species designation human will now be heard," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Li Jiwan stood and walked to the speaking platform. Around her, hundreds of alien eyes watched. Some looked curious, others seemed bored. A few appeared hostile. "Honored Council," she began. "Humanity requests recognition as a Tier 1 civilization. We have met all requirements. Our technology is advanced. Our society is stable. We have helped other species and caused no wars." She gestured to Dr. Kim Yuna, who activated a holographic display. Images of human achievements filled the air above them. Cities on distant worlds. Massive ships carrying trade goods. Hospitals where human doctors worked alongside alien healers. "We have built 17 space stations," Li Jiwan continued. "Our ships carry cargo for 43 different species. Human engineers have helped upgrade mining operations on 67 worlds. We ask only for the same rights and responsibilities given to other Tier 1 civilizations." The hall was quiet, as the Council of Five discussed among themselves. Their conversation was too fast and too alien for the translation computers to follow. But Li Jiwan could sense something was wrong. Captain Park Minho stepped closer, his soldier instincts alert. Finally, High Counselor Velneth of the crystal-like Velthari rose. When it spoke, its voice sounded like breaking glass. "The species known as humans," it said, and the word, humans, came out like something distasteful, "are too new, too violent, too primitive for Tier 1 status." Shocked gasps echoed through the hall. This was not what anyone expected. "Humans fight constantly among themselves," Velneth continued. "Their history is filled with wars. They have been in space for barely a moment. They are children playing, with tools they do not understand." Li Jiwan felt her face burn with anger, but she kept her voice steady. "Honored Counselor, every species has had conflicts in its past. Humans have been peaceful in space. We have—" "Silence!" Velneth's voice rang like a cracked bell. "The Council has decided. Humans are granted Tier 3 status. They will be supervised by the Crix hives. They may not travel independently beyond their home system without permission. They may not trade without oversight. They may not colonize new worlds." The words hit like physical blows. Tier 3 was what they gave to species that had just learned to make fire. It was an insult so deep that several alien species in the audience made sounds of surprise. Dr. Kim Yuna stood up, her scientific mind cutting through emotion to see the truth. "You fear us," she said simply. "You fear what we might become. Fear." Velneth laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "We do not fear primitives. We protect the galaxy from them." Captain Park Minho's hand was now gripping his weapon. Around the hall, security forces from various species started to move. The tension was thick enough to cut. But Li Jiwan raised her hand, stopping her own people and signaling the security forces to wait. She looked up at the Council of Five, her eyes burning with controlled fury. "You have made your decision," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. "Now live with the consequences." She turned and walked toward the exit. Captain Park Min-ho and Dr. Kim Yuna followed without a word. Behind them, the human delegation rose as one and moved toward the doors. "Where do you think you're going?" called Morgoth of the aquatic Mordun Empire. "The assembly is not finished." Li Jiwan stopped at the massive doors and looked back. Every eye in the hall was on her. The moment stretched like a held breath. "As a Tier 3 species under supervision," she said, her voice cold as space itself, "we clearly have nothing more to contribute to this assembly. We withdraw." The human delegation walked out. The great doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. In the hall they left behind, thousands of aliens sat in stunned silence. Many of them traded with humans. Some had human friends. Others had worked with human engineers and doctors. High Counselor Velnath seemed pleased. "The matter is settled. Order will be maintained." But in the back rows, where the smaller species sat, worried conversations began. The Rigelians remembered human cargo ships that always arrived on time. The Taucetians thought of human medics who had saved thousands during the plague outbreak. The Vegan traders knew that human logistics networks moved goods across the galaxy. What would happen now? Outside the station, the human ships were already preparing to leave. But as they powered up their engines, every human in the delegation had the same thought. The Council of Five had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They thought they had put humanity in its place. Instead, they had just taught humanity exactly what it needed to know about galactic politics. The lesson was simple. Being right didn't matter. Being useful didn't matter. Only power mattered. The humans were about to show the galaxy what human power really looked like. Commander Oh Ji-sung was drinking coffee on the bridge of the human warship Indomitable when the message came through. 3 simple words in code. Operation Silent Stars. He set down his cup carefully and looked at his crew. They had been waiting for the signal for months, hoping they would never need to use it. But the humans had learned to plan for the worst. "All stations, prepare for immediate execution of Protocol 7, he announced. Around him, officers began typing rapidly at their stations. Across human space, the same message reached every colony, every trade ship, every research station. In mining bases on distant asteroids and farming domes on alien worlds, humans received their orders with grim determination. Captain Nam Suho was loading rare metals onto his cargo ship Prosperity when his communication device buzzed. He read the message twice, then walked to the ship's intercom. "All human personnel return to ship immediately. Emergency departure in 30 minutes. The alien workers at the Velthari crystal mines looked confused as humans suddenly started packing up and leaving. These humans had worked here for 2 years, becoming part of the community. They had friends among the crystal beings. Children had learned to play together despite their different natures. "Where are you going?" asked Velkar, a young Velthari who had learned human languages. "Is something wrong?" Nam Suho put his hand on the crystal being's shoulder, feeling the strange tingling energy that all Velthari gave off. "I'm sorry, friend. Orders are orders." Within hours, every human facility went dark. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply empty. Human cargo ships stopped mid-route and jumped to hyperspace. Research stations that had operated for decades suddenly showed no life signs. Trade outposts that had served as meeting points for dozens of species were abandoned. Trade manager Rin Myung had spent 5 years building the shipping network that connected 67 star systems. Her office on Kepler Station coordinated the movement of millions of tons of cargo every day. Now she deleted every file, wiped every computer, and activated the station's automatic systems. "Ma'am," said her assistant, a blue-skinned Rigelian named Zeph. "What's happening? Where is everyone going?" "Home," Rin Myung said simply. "We're going home." But the trade routes, the shipping schedules, everything will collapse without the coordination network. Rin Myung looked at Zeph with sad eyes. Yes, she said. It will. At first, the galaxy celebrated. News broadcasts across hundreds of worlds reported that the aggressive human expansion had ended. The troublemaker species had accepted their proper place and retreated to their home system. High Counselor Velneth gave interviews praising the Council's wisdom. Order has been restored, it announced. The galaxy is safer without human interference in mature civilizations. But the celebration didn't last long. The first problems appeared within days. Cargo ships that had relied on human navigation data found themselves lost in space. The humans had created detailed maps of safe hyperspace routes, but they took those maps with them. Trade manager Clith of the Crix Hives discovered that 17 different shipping contracts had been canceled when the humans left. Worse, the cargo ships that were supposed to replace human vessels were slower and less reliable. How did they move so much cargo with so few ships? Clith wondered, studying the human logistics records that had been left behind. The numbers didn't make sense. Human ships seemed to be in multiple places at once. On the mining world of Vega 7, engineer Ko Taehyun's atmospheric processors had kept the air breathable for 3 different species. Without him, the automatic systems began to fail. The Yao planet's administrator sent desperate messages to the Nethek Collective, begging for replacement engineers. But the Nethek engineers couldn't understand human technology. The atmospheric processors used a completely different approach than anything in their databases. They worked perfectly, but no one knew how to fix them when they broke. Professor Han Dongwu sat in his hidden laboratory in Earth's Kuiper Belt, monitoring galactic communication networks. He had access to systems that most aliens didn't know existed. What he saw made him smile grimly. Food shipments to the outer colonies were running late. Medical supplies meant for emergency response teams were stuck in bureaucratic delays. Information networks that had carried scientific data instantly now took weeks to process requests. They built their whole system around us, he told Dr. Kim, Yuna during their daily conference call. They just didn't realize it. Dr. Kim Yuna was reviewing intelligence reports from her new office on Luna. Human agents throughout the galaxy, diplomats, traders, engineers, doctors, had all been quietly gathering information for years. Now that information painted a clear picture. Look at this, she said, sending data to Professor Han's screen. The Velthari crystal mines are running at 60% efficiency without human coordination. The Mordoon shipping lanes are backed, up for weeks. Even the Astral Confluence is having trouble maintaining their energy networks. How long before they notice the pattern? Han asked. They're starting to notice now, but they think it's just temporary disruption. They don't understand that we weren't just participants in their economy. We were the foundation it was built on. Ambassador Li Jiwan stood in the observation deck of the hidden human base on Europa, watching Earth rise over the horizon. It looked peaceful from here, blue and white and beautiful. But she knew that in the underground cities and orbital stations, humanity was preparing for something the galaxy had never seen. Status report, she said to Captain Park Minho, who had been coordinating with military commanders across the solar system. All human personnel have returned to Sol system, he reported. Casualties, 0. Equipment losses, minimal. Operational security, maintained. And the galaxy? Park Minho allowed himself a small smile. Chaos. Trade is down 30% and falling. 3 minor species have already sent diplomatic requests asking when we plan to resume operations. But the Council of 5? Still celebrating their victory, they think the problems are temporary adjustment issues. Li Jiwan nodded. The Council of 5 had made a critical error in understanding human nature. They thought humans would sulk and gradually accept their reduced status. They expected humanity to come crawling back, grateful for whatever scraps were offered. They had no idea that humans had been planning for this possibility since the day they first applied for Tier 1 status. Every human in space had been briefed on Operation Silent Stars. Every trade route, every mining operation, every research project had been designed to be portable. "Ma'am," said Dr. Kim Yuna over the communication system, "we're ready for Phase 2. Li Jiwan looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien species were discovering just how much they had depended on humanity. Soon, they would start asking questions. They would want to know why their food was late, why their ships were getting lost, why their technology was breaking down, and when they did, humanity would be ready with answers. "Initiate Phase 2, she said quietly. The withdrawal was complete. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humans could really do when they stopped asking for permission. Admiral Yoon Seojin watched the sensor display as her fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 24 human ships appeared at the edge of the Velthari home system, their engines glowing blue against the darkness of space. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "the Velthari defense fleet is moving to intercept. They're demanding to know our intentions." "Tell them we're here to mine asteroids," Yoon Seojin said calmly. "We have every right under galactic law." It had been 6 months since the humans had withdrawn from galactic society. 6 months of chaos as trade routes collapsed and technology failed. Now the humans were back, but not where anyone expected them. Captain Lee So-young commanded the mining ship Perseverance as it moved toward a cluster of asteroids that the Velthari had ignored for centuries. The space rocks contained valuable, rare metals, but they were hard to reach and expensive to process. Most species found it easier to mine planets, but humans were different. They had learned to work in the most difficult environments to find profit where others saw only problems. "Velthari defense ship Crystal Spear, this is Captain Lee So-young of the Perseverance," she said into her communication device. "We are conducting legal mining operations in unclaimed space. These asteroids are in Velthari territory," came the angry reply. "Check your star charts," Lee So-young said politely. "These asteroids are 14 light minutes outside your territorial boundary. According to Galactic Law Article 347, Tier 3 civilizations are permitted to extract resources from unclaimed space for survival purposes." The Velthari ship fell, silent. Captain Lee So-young smiled as she watched her mining drones deploy. The humans had studied galactic law very carefully during their 6 months away. They knew exactly what they could and couldn't do. Similar operations were starting all across the galaxy. Human ships appeared near asteroid fields, gas clouds, and debris rings that had been ignored by major civilizations. Always in unclaimed space. Always following the law exactly. Engineer Ko Tae-hyun supervised the construction of what looked like a massive cargo ship in deep space. To any outside observer, it was clearly a civilian vessel designed for hauling large amounts of material. But Ko Tae-hyun knew better. Hidden inside the cargo ship's hull were fusion reactors powerful enough to run a space station. Its storage compartments could deploy swarms of automated defense drones. Its navigation array was actually a military-grade sensor system that could track ships across entire star systems. "How many more do we need?" asked his assistant, young engineer Bae Hee-jin. 27 more ships like this one," Ko Tae-hyun replied. "Each one designed to look harmless while being anything but." The Crix hives had been given the job of supervising humanity, but they were struggling with the task. Humans were spread across dozens of systems now, always in small groups, always staying within the letter of galactic law. Hive speaker Klaxith arrived at the human mining operation in the Vega system, expecting to find a primitive setup. Instead, she discovered a facility that was producing more refined metals than most Tier 1 civilizations. "How is this possible?" she asked Station Chief Bae Hee-jin, who showed her around with a friendly smile. "Humans are very good at making things work," Bae Hee-jin said in deliberately simple galactic standard. "We work hard. We solve problems." The tour revealed mining equipment that extracted ore from asteroids with incredible efficiency, processing plants that refined raw materials to purity levels the Crix had never seen, storage facilities that seemed to hold impossible amounts of cargo in small spaces. "This technology," Klaxith said, studying a fusion cutter that was carving through solid rock like butter. "Where did you acquire it?" "We made it," Agent said simply. Human engineers are creative. Klaxith filed her report with growing unease. The humans weren't violating any laws, but something felt wrong. No Tier 3 civilization should be this advanced. No primitive species should be this organized. But the Krix hives had their own problems. Several of their cargo ships had suffered mysterious mechanical failures. Navigation systems crashed. Engines shut down for no reason. Life support systems developed glitches that left crews stranded until rescue arrived. The Morden Empire was facing similar issues. Trade ships that had operated perfectly for decades were breaking down. Always minor problems, always fixable, but the delays were adding up. Intelligence analyst Choi Jinwoo sat in his hidden monitoring station and watched the galaxy slowly realize that something was very wrong. His screens showed shipping delays, communication failures, and system malfunctions across hundreds of worlds. The pattern is becoming visible, he reported to Admiral Yoon Seojin. They're starting to ask questions. What kind of questions? Why did these problems start exactly when humans withdrew? Why do human systems still work perfectly while everyone else's technology is failing? Admiral Yoon Seojin smiled grimly. And what answers are they finding? None that they like. The smart ones are starting to suspect sabotage, but they can't prove anything. The truth was both simpler and more complex than anyone suspected. For 3 years, humans had worked alongside every major species in the galaxy. They had helped build ships, design stations, and create networks. They had been helpful, friendly, and eager to please. But they had also been very careful to understand exactly how everything worked. Captain Park Min-ho led a small team through the maintenance tunnels of Nexus Prime Station itself. They moved, like ghosts through the massive structure, avoiding security cameras and patrol routes they had memorized months ago. Their mission wasn't to cause damage, it was to leave a message. In the main computer core, Park Min-ho attached a small device to the central processing unit. It would activate in exactly 72 hours, displaying a simple text message on every screen in the station. The message would read, "You wanted us to be supervised children, but children learn, and sometimes they learn things their parents never intended to teach them." Dr. Kim Yuna reviewed the final preparations from her command center on Luna. Across the galaxy, human teams were moving into position, not for an attack but for a demonstration. All teams report ready, she announced. Phase 3 begins in 6 hours. Ambassador Lee Ji-won stood in the observation deck, watching Earth's blue surface turn slowly below. In 6 hours, the galaxy would discover that humanity had never really withdrawn. They had simply been preparing. The Council of Five thought they had neutralized the human threat by giving them a low status. Instead, they had taught humanity exactly how galactic power really worked. Not through official recognition or fancy titles, but through control of the systems that kept civilization running. Every ship that the humans had helped build contained components that could be controlled remotely. Every network they had designed included hidden access points. Every facility they had worked on was vulnerable to systems they understood better than their builders. The galaxy was about to learn that humans didn't need permission to be dangerous. They just needed patience, and humans were very, very patient. War Speaker Morgoth stared at the empty space where 300 Morden trade ships should have been. The massive convoy had been carrying food supplies to 17 drought-stricken colonies. Now there was nothing but empty vacuum and silence. "No, debris," reported his sensor officer. "No distress signals, no energy readings, they're just gone." "Pirates?" Morgoth asked, though he knew it was impossible. "No pirate fleet could take 300 ships without a fight." "Unknown, sir. But pirates couldn't move that much cargo. And they couldn't do it without leaving traces." Intelligence analyst Choi Jinwoo watched the Morden fleet search for their missing ships from his hidden monitoring station. He could have told them where the convoy was, safely docked at a human facility in the Outer Rim, their crews unharmed but confused about how they had gotten there. "Target acquired and relocated," he reported to Dr. Kim Yuna. "No casualties, no damage to ships or cargo." "Excellent. What about the Krix operation?" "Complete success. 12 military transports, all crew safe, all ships intact. They think they..." suffered navigation system failures and emergency, jumped to wrong coordinates. Dr. Kim Yuna smiled as she reviewed the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Everywhere, ships were disappearing and reappearing. Cargo convoys vanished from heavily guarded trade routes. Military vessels found themselves drifting in empty space with confused crews and no memory of how they got there. The technique was elegant in its simplicity. Every ship that humans had helped build or repair contained hidden systems. When activated, these systems could override navigation computers, disable communications, and even put crews to sleep with carefully calibrated gas releases. The ships weren't destroyed. The crews weren't harmed. They were simply relocated to places where humans could examine them closely and then return to space near their intended destinations. Captain Nam Suho commanded the operation from the disguised cargo ship Unity. His vessel looked like an ordinary transport, but its cargo holds contained the most sophisticated hacking equipment in the galaxy. "Next target approaching," reported his tactical officer. "Nethek collective gas tanker, carrying processed atmosphere for the Rigel colonies." "Same procedure," Nam Suho ordered. "Override, relocate, examine, return. No harm to crew or cargo." The Nethek tanker's energy-based crew didn't even realize what happened. One moment they were traveling through hyperspace, the next they were drifting near an asteroid field with their navigation system showing impossible readings. By the time they figured out where they were and called for help, human technicians had spent 6 hours studying their ship's technology and cargo systems. Admiral Yoon Seojin received reports of successful operations from 27 different teams. The galaxy was in panic. Ships were disappearing faster than authorities could investigate. Trade routes that had operated safely for centuries were now considered dangerous. "Ma'am," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving emergency broadcasts from 14 different systems. They're demanding answers about the missing ships." "And what are they being told?" "Official sources blame pirates, navigation, failures, and mechanical problems. But the smart ones are starting to see the pattern. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Every missing ship had been worked on by human engineers at some point. Every affected trade route had used human-designed navigation networks. Every facility experiencing technical difficulties had human-built components. High Counselor Velneth called an emergency meeting of the Council of Five. The great crystal being's voice rang with anger and fear. "This cannot be coincidence," it declared. "The humans are behind these incidents." "Impossible," replied Astral Mind Flux of the Confluence. "Humans are Tier 3. They lack the technology for such operations." "Then explain the disappearances." Morgoth of the Morden Empire had lost 12 convoys in 3 days. "Our ships are found intact but relocated. Crews report strange dreams and memory gaps. This is beyond pirate capability." "Have you found evidence of human involvement?" asked Hive Queen Zara of the Crix. "No direct evidence, but every missing ship had human maintenance records. Every affected route used human coordination protocols." Captain Park Minho led his team through the corridors of Nexus Prime Station. They had been here many times during the 3 years of diplomatic negotiations. Now they moved with the confidence of people who knew every secret passage and hidden access point. Their destination was the main communication hub, not to destroy it, but to deliver a message that would reach every corner of the galaxy. "Security patrol coming," whispered his technician, engineer Lee Do-yoon. "I know," Park Min-ho replied. "Third patrol this cycle. Guard change in 40 seconds. They had studied the station's security patterns for months. Every guard rotation, every camera sweep, every automated scan was predictable to people who had helped design the systems. When they reached the communication hub, Lee Do-hyun attached a small device to the main broadcast array. In 12 hours, every communication device in the galaxy would receive the same message. At the exact moment the device activated, Dr. Kim Yuna's face appeared on screens across thousands of worlds. Her image was broadcast simultaneously on every channel, every network, every communication system in known space. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, her voice calm and professional. "For 3 years, humanity has served as your students, your workers, your partners. We learned your languages, your customs, your technologies. We helped build your ships, maintain your stations, and coordinate your trade. On a dozen worlds, alien leaders tried desperately to cut the transmission. But the signal was coming from everywhere at once, embedded in the communication networks themselves. During that time, Dr. Kim Yuna continued, you taught us that politics matters more than capability. That age matters more than achievement. That recognition must be earned, not through contribution, but through submission. We learned those lessons well, but we also learned something else. We learned how your ships work, how your stations operate, how your networks function. We learned because we helped build them. The image changed to show technical schematics. Detailed blueprints of Velthari crystal ships, Morden trade vessels, Krix military transports, and Nethik gas haulers. Every design showed human modifications, human improvements, human components. For 3 years, you allowed us to work on your most important systems. You trusted us because you thought we were harmless children. You were wrong. The schematics highlighted access points, override systems, and control mechanisms that had been hidden in plain sight. Every major ship in the galaxy had been compromised, not with weapons or explosives, but with carefully designed systems that gave humans complete control. We are returning your missing ships, Dr. Kim Yuna announced. Their crews are unharmed. Their cargo is intact. Consider this a demonstration of our capabilities, not a threat. The transmission ended, but the damage was done. Across the galaxy, alien species stared at their screens in shock and growing fear. Admiral Yoon Seojin stood on the bridge of her hidden dreadnought Terra's Fury as reports came in from across human space. Operation Silent Stars had moved into its final phase. All missing ships have been returned, reported her operations officer. Total casualties, 0. Total cargo lost, 0. Total systems compromised, approximately 47,000. Reactions? Panic, mostly. The Velthari are recalling their entire fleet for emergency inspections. The Morden Empire has suspended all trade operations. The Krix hives are demanding answers from their own engineers. And the Council of Five? Emergency session called for tomorrow. They're requesting immediate diplomatic contact with Earth. Admiral Yoon Seojin smiled. The galaxy that had dismissed humanity as primitive children was about to discover that those children had grown up, and they had learned some very dangerous lessons. Ambassador Lee Ji-won walked into the emergency session of the Galactic Assembly like she owned the place. Behind her came Captain Park Min-ho and Admiral Yoon Seojin, their uniforms clean and pressed, their faces calm and confident. The Great Hall was packed. Every species in the galaxy had sent representatives, but this time the humans weren't asking for permission to speak. They had demanded this meeting, and after the demonstration of their capabilities, no one dared refuse. High Counselor. Velneth's crystal form flickered with angry red light as Lee Ji-won approached the speaking platform. You have violated every law of civilized space, it accused. This aggression will not be tolerated? Lee Ji-won interrupted smoothly. Counselor, we haven't committed a single act of violence. Every ship we relocated was returned undamaged. Every crew member was safe. We simply demonstrated that your tier system has nothing to do with actual capability. She gestured to the massive screens around the hall, which suddenly displayed data that made the assembled aliens gasp. Trade efficiency reports, technology advancement charts, economic impact studies, all showing the same thing. Humanity's contributions to galactic civilization far exceeded those of most Tier 1 species. For 3 years, we asked politely for recognition, Lee Ji-won continued. We followed your rules, respected your traditions, and contributed to your societies. In return, you gave us the status of children and assigned supervisors to watch over us. Professor Han Dongwoo's voice came through the hall's communication system as he presented evidence from his hidden research facility. During our supervised period, we documented systematic suppression of technological advancement in 43 species classified as Tier 2 or below. The Council of Five has maintained power not through superiority, but through artificial limitation of potential competitors. The accusation sent shockwaves through the assembly. Species that had been held at Tier 2 status for centuries began murmuring among themselves. Some had suspected, but none had dared to speak openly. Zeph, the Rigelian who had worked with trade manager Rin Myung, stood up in the audience. "The humans are right," he announced, his blue skin darkening with emotion. "Our people developed faster than light communication 50 years ago, but our application for Tier 1 status was denied. We were told our technology wasn't advanced enough. The Tau Cetians created medical nanobots that can cure cancer," added Dr. Vexillar, an insectoid being from the Outer Rim. "But we were told biological manipulation was too dangerous for young species." More voices joined in. The Procyon Federation, the Wolf 359 Alliance, the Centauri Republic. Dozens of species that had been kept in lower tiers despite significant achievements. Admiral Yoon Seojin stepped forward, and the hall fell silent. Her presence commanded attention in a way that official titles never could. "The galaxy has a choice," she said simply. "You can continue with the old system, where advancement is controlled by politics and fear, or you can embrace a new approach based on contribution and capability." Captain Nam Suho's cargo ship, Unity, moved into orbit around Nexus Prime, no longer hiding its true nature. Its cargo holds open to reveal not weapons but construction equipment and engineers. "We offer our technology freely," Admiral Yoon Seojin continued. "Our logistics networks, our manufacturing processes, our scientific advances, not as gifts to grateful children but as partnerships between equals." Engineer Ko Taehyun's voice came through the communication system as construction drones began assembling new trade platforms around the station. "Human engineering teams are ready to upgrade infrastructure for any species willing to abandon the artificial hierarchies that have held back galactic progress for millennia." The Council of Five sat in stunned silence as their authority crumbled around them. Species after species announced their support for humanity's new galactic compact. The Rigelian Federation, the Tau Ceti Alliance, the Procyon Republic, 17 other civilizations that had been artificially held back. Dr. Kim Yuna appeared on the main screen, speaking from her laboratory on Luna. "To those who choose to join us, we offer true partnership, shared technology, open trade, and advancement, based on merit. To those who prefer the old ways," she shrugged, "that is your choice. But you'll be making it alone." High Counselor Velneth's crystal form had turned a deep purple with rage. "You cannot restructure galactic civilization on a whim. The order we have maintained has kept peace for thousands of years." "Peace built on suppression isn't peace," Li Jiwan replied. "It's just delayed conflict. You've spent so much energy keeping others down that you've forgotten how to move forward yourselves." The truth of her words was evident in the technical displays still showing around the hall. The ancient council species had advanced little in the past 1,000 years. They had maintained power through control, not innovation. Morgoth of the Mordoon Empire was the first to break. His aquatic form shifted nervously in its containment field. "If we were to consider this new arrangement, what would be required?" "Simple," Admiral Yoon Seojin said. "Abandon the tier system. Open your borders to free trade and technology exchange. Judge species by what they contribute, not by how long they've been in space. And if we refuse?" Captain Park Min-ho spoke for the first time, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of a soldier who knew he held all the cards. "Then you'll discover how dependent you've become on systems you don't fully understand. Systems that we built for you." It wasn't a threat. It was a simple statement of fact. The galaxy's infrastructure was now so intertwined with human technology that removing it would cause civilization itself to collapse. Captain Nam Suho opened the cargo bays of his ships throughout the galaxy, revealing the extent of human preparation. Advanced manufacturing equipment, fusion reactors, quantum computers, technology that surpassed anything the Council of Five possessed. "The choice is yours," Li Jiwan said, addressing the entire assembly. "Join us in building something better, or try to maintain a system that no longer works." One by one, species began announcing their decisions. The Rigelians voted unanimously to join the Human Alliance. The Taucedians followed, the Procyon, the Centaurians. Even some Tier 1 species began to waver. The benefits of human technology were obvious. The alternative was isolation and decline. Hive Queen. Zara of the Crix was the first of the major powers to speak. The Crix hives will consider this proposal. We request detailed technological specifications and trade agreements. Astral Mind Flux of the Confluence admitted, our energy networks have benefited greatly from human improvements. Perhaps cooperation would be beneficial. By the end of the session, only the Velthari and Mordoon Empire had refused to join the new Galactic Compact. They retreated to their core systems, maintaining their ancient ways while the rest of the galaxy moved forward. Engineer Ko Tae-hyun took command of the new galactic infrastructure network, upgrading communication systems and trade routes across hundreds of worlds. His teams worked with alien engineers, sharing knowledge that had been hoarded for millennia. Trade manager Rin Myung returned to coordinate shipping, but now she worked with representatives from dozens of species instead of taking orders from a central authority. Trade flowed more efficiently than ever before. Dr. Kim Yuna established research exchanges where human scientists worked alongside alien scholars, advancing knowledge at a pace that amazed everyone involved. 6 months later, Ambassador Lee Ji-won stood again on the observation deck of a space station. But this wasn't Nexus Prime. It was New Horizon, a massive construction built by the combined efforts of 43 different species. Admiral Yoon Seojin joined her at the viewing port. Status report? Trade up 400%. Scientific advancement accelerated beyond all projections. 17 new technologies developed just this month through cross-species collaboration. And the holdouts? The Velthari have started sending diplomatic inquiries. The Mordoon are experiencing internal pressure to join. Isolation isn't sustainable when everyone else is advancing. Through the transparent aluminum, they could see ships from dozens of species working together. Human vessels flew alongside Rigelian cruisers and Taucedian research ships. The sight would have been impossible under the old system. You know what the best part is? Lee Ji-won said with satisfaction. We didn't conquer anyone. We didn't destroy anything. We just stopped pretending that politics mattered more than capability. Admiral Yoon Seojin smiled. And we stopped asking permission to be great. The galaxy had tried to keep humanity small and controlled. Instead, they had taught humans to be patient, thorough, and absolutely unstoppable. Now, as the architects of a new age, humans were finally showing the galaxy what they could accomplish when artificial limitations were removed. The Council of Five had made one critical error. They had assumed that power came from recognition and titles. But humans understood a deeper truth. Real power came from being indispensable. And once you were indispensable, recognition became irrelevant. The galaxy was learning that lesson now, and they would never forget it.